just like wow, what is that? Don't worry about it. February 18th, man. Time flies when you're having some fun. What's up, guys? Welcome to BitCast episode 68 for the week of February 17th, 2019. I'm your host, Jake Martin, and in the studio this week, we have the movie maestro himself, Zach Flowers.
Maestro's a, interesting word to use, but, enthusiast. We'll go with that one. But yeah, I'm here.
Listen, there's nobody else in Chattanooga that knows more about film than you.
I highly doubt that, but, I appreciate it regardless.
There's like some film critic out there that's pissed right now, like, son of a...
Whoever's the guy that's for, like, the Times Free Press that reviews movies, he's like,
you guys are
no.
dumb. You guys are dumb dummies. So thanks so much for tuning in. Today we'll be discussing the 91st Academy Awards, or the Oscars, as you may know it. A few housekeeping notes. Make sure to leave reviews or write into us, or check out our weekly newsletter that is going out every Tuesday, keeping you up to date with all the happenings. Actually, I think last week or the week before was talking about the Oscar noms, just like what was announced, So if you're a hip dad that doesn't have time to play video games or just keep up with pop culture, that newsletter is pretty cool. It does a good thing for you guys. Drink of the show today is water because
hydration.
Yeah, hydration.
Yeah.
And you got to sound good on these mics. Don't want y'all hear
real good.
Don't want y'all hearing that. You know what I'm talking about? So anyways, like I said, we're talking about the Oscars today. Before we jump into that, just want to disclaim that we are going to be talking about spoilers for majority of all these.
Yeah.
So we're going to go full into it.
Yeah.
So if you haven't watched these yet, and I think the Oscars, I forget what date they actually are airing.
It's Sunday.
Sunday this week.
25th. Today's a Monday.
It's the 24th.
24th.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yep.
So if you are listening and you have not watched some of these and plan to, I would bow out now and then come back after you've watched so you'll enjoy this a bit more. But if you just like film and like hearing Zach and I talk about stuff, then you're in the right place.
It's 24th.
Jumping into the show right after this. Sorry, guys, for the confusing music you're about to hear. Wait a minute. That's
Hang
not
on.
This one's real short.
Oh, and we're on black. Oh, there we are.
And we're back. Normally
back.
It automatically transitions, but I guess it's turned off for right now. Man, technology. It lets you down sometimes.
It really does.
I'll tell you what. So anyways, so Zach, you and I have done this. Is this our second year now doing this?
This is year 3.
This is year 3.
Yeah.
I can't even, man, I need to go back and listen to year 1 and see
I'm trying to remember what year 1 was.
See how dumb we sounded.
No, that was La La Land and Moonlight, and
that was a good year, actually.
That was a fun year for movies.
And then last year,
Hell or High Water.
That was a good year. That was a fun year.
But that was a long year. That was like 10 noms that year.
Yeah, and then last year was 9.
Mm-hmm.
This year is 8.
Or 8.
It's getting more and more.
Who won last year?
I feel like I
don't even know. It's
guys, if you're in the comments section of this, let us know.
Oh,
we're not going to get your answer until after this is produced and put up tomorrow.
But
I could look back at the list.
You keep doing your intro. I'll remember it here in a second.
You think about it. But today we're talking about the Oscars or Academy Awards for 2019, the 91st Academy Awards show. This year's nominations were Black Panther, Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favorite, spelled in the European way, or however you favorite, Green Book, Roma, A Star is Born, and Vice. So we're going to be going through each of these, just movie by movie, talking about the directors, the cast in them, and what we thought of them, any strong points from each. And then at the very end of the show, we will try to predict what we think will win. I've also included the critic score for all of these from Rotten Toms.
Oh, good old Rotten Tom.
Rotten Toms. So we know how critics feel about it, but will that net them a W in the actual award show?
Just so you know, I'm totally looking up who won the best. Oh no, I don't need it. It's Shape of Water. Shape of Water.
I remember being a little confused.
Yeah, Shape of Water.
I think you and I both were like, I'm surprised they won. Good for those guys.
Yeah, I don't think either of us. I don't think either of us was our favorite. Yeah. But
cool movie. I love Guillermo del Toro. He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
But that movie was a little bit odd for me at least.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it wasn't odd. The Black Panther.
Black Panther.
Or just Black Panther in general.
It was just great.
It feels like I feel like this movie came out so long ago.
It did. It was
early 2018, I feel like.
March or April, maybe late April.
I don't even know.
It might have been May. The only reason I know that is because my seniors were doing like their like yearly superlatives for like pop culture stuff, and it was like we were taking votes in like March or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And it was like best movie of the year, and they were all like Black Panther. And I was like, it hasn't even come out. How do you know? How do you know it's gonna be the? Which I mean, to be fair, for their senior year,
That's a pretty cool movie.
it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very rare to have a Best Picture nominated movie last that long.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's usually, I mean, just historically speaking, you're talking November, December, January is the crunch for that.
Oh, yeah. Because if
And
you think
this
about it, that's
is-
when people want to stay inside and watch movies.
which makes sense. But not only is this, it's your first superhero-y, is it?
Yeah. It's definitely Marvel. I mean, it's
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely the
full-on
first,
superhero.
first Marvel. I mean, Star Wars probably was up for something at some point, but
sound design. Sometimes sound design or like
special effects,
art direction, special effects. Never Best Picture though.
Mm-mm.
And so, do you remember? I think it was last year when they were talking about this award show, they were trying to add a popular category
Yeah,
award or
Yes.
or I forget the actual what they called it.
it's like fan favorite award or like some sort of
Yeah.
But looking at more of the what movies done well, our
Yeah.
blockbusters. How can we get them involved?
Yeah, what do people actually like to watch, or what was like the people's choice favorite?
Which, to be fair, they picked a good one.
They did, and I think I think in general that was a good idea, but they didn't like it. People shut it down. They're like, no, that's not what the awards is about. It's about filmmaking and stuff like that. It's not
Correct.
we're not trying to appease a broader audience. Like we want to make sure this is about film and stuff like that. So that being said, it was really interesting to see, and I'm really happy to see Black Panther in Best
Yeah.
Picture noms. 'Cause I think, like going off what you were saying, I'm almost certain this is probably one of the first big budget blockbuster like superhero films ever to be nominated for Best
Yeah,
Picture.
superhero wise, I'm thinking probably outside of that, big budget wise. The only thing else I can think that really can even compare is maybe like a Lord of the Rings, like when Return of the Kings
Yeah.
hit, and that was like took all the awards, which
It had to have been, and
I-
but even then, that's such a different.
because it wasn't like superheroes.
Yeah, when unfortunately, superhero movies for the longest time have had that stigma of being like childish or not necessarily.
Not critic worthy of
Yeah.
awards, and and this
But here we are.
definitely here we are, and
Rightfully deserved. I
right,
think.
yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, Brett. Let's see, Ryan Coogler, who previously to this, probably you've heard of Creed or Creed 2 or Fruitvale Station, both
of which are-
featuring Michael B. Jordan.
and I mean, and this one, so
Both excellent.
yeah, golly, was Fruitvale up for?
Yeah, I believe Fruitvale won or was nominated for
It was,
something,
yeah,
but nonetheless.
I watched Fruitvale in Berkeley, California. So like
Oh dang!
just two
right
exits
there.
up or three exits up from the Fruitvale station on the BART, and like people were like sobbing in the movie theater because like, it was still so fresh for them.
Oh yeah,
Anyways, but that's not what we're talking about right
we're talking about
We're talking about Ryan.
Ryan Coogler doing a great job and
Yes.
using Michael B. Jordan, and really, I mean, just this year, 2018 as a whole was, I think, was it the 2017 that was the Oscars So White, or was that the previous year?
It was 2017, I think.
Okay,
Because then last year, that's when you got Daniel Kaluuya, Jordan Peele,
yeah,
with Get
Okay.
Out, that kind of, and Octavia Spencer.
okay, yeah.
So
So yeah, so I think this is a continuing trend and just showing like there's a lot of talented different directors and
Mhm.
cast members that can
Mhm.
create memorable stories, even
not
in
just white people.
even in a superhero film, and
Yeah.
that just kind of brings it to a whole new level of like you have all these talented African American people in this, as well as directed by someone who's African American, and they're just bringing it full circle.
Oh yeah, and I think the great thing about it was that it wasn't. I feel like part of the problem that you've gotten with a good chunk of the Marvel movies in the middle is that they all kind of followed a similar kind of structure to it.
Yep.
Here's your ordinary person, and now they're a superhero, and now there's this random supervillain that they have to go and like meet.
Yeah.
to an extent, it kind of follows that, but it's like it's already established. Like we're sitting in the middle of this, and
Yeah, Wakanda already exists.
Wakanda exists, and it's been hidden away. But I mean, like it was so fresh and so new that you were like, "Whoa, this is actually like." I'm intrigued by it. Like this is fun. This is entertaining, but at the same time, like it's so focused on, this secluded culture and how these was it 5 tribes?
Yeah.
All kind of interacted, but then
I was gonna say that's probably one of the biggest strengths of this movie was like the world building that they set up from the start. Like, okay, so we have this story of Michael B. Jordan growing up and his dad being killed by somebody from Wakanda. Fast forward, boom, here we are in Wakanda now. We know what this side of the place looks like, and there's all these different tribes in there. Seeing how like structure or society is set up over there, and how everything is kind of in order and peaceful. And then as soon as you enter in the world, the United States or whatever you want to project that at, it kind of all goes south and things start falling apart. But yeah, I mean, just a really, I had like Lion King vibes almost from this sort of like,
definitely.
Some guy comes in, kicks him out, he gets banished or outcast. Everyone thinks he's dead, and then comes back to reclaim the throne and
has this little like dream vision with his father.
Yeah.
Which is very, Mufasa, Rafiki.
Now that I'm thinking about that really is like
no, there are parallels, but you know what?
It's so good.
It was great. And I didn't even realize that till right now, but oh man.
Yeah. So I mean, I love Lion King and I love this movie.
And I'm really excited for the new Lion King.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's gonna be great.
Oh.
I'm excited they're adding some new songs too. That'll be fun. Aladdin, we'll see about that one. I don't know about but I mean, Chadwick Boseman. I don't know if we had. I didn't do a quick study up on his filmography. Like
42 was kind of his.
Okay.
I don't want to say big breakthrough, but as far as what kind of put him on national stage,
on the map,
after that he did Get On Up, which was why am I blanking on the guy's name?
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's
he
fine.
did Get On Up, and that kind of
kept him on there. And so yeah, I mean, really, this entire cast. I don't know if it's like. It's just really cool because after you see them in I remember when I saw Get Out. I saw Daniel Kaluuya showing up a ton.
Oh yeah.
Lupita Nyong'o is also in like a million things. I'm sure I pronounced her name wrong.
No, that's
pretty close enough.
Nyong'o, yeah.
Michael B. Jordan. I mean, all these people you see so much, and then just
Sterling K. Brown for all of 2 minutes.
Yeah, but hey, he was there.
He was there,
and This Is Us, right? Is that who that is? Okay.
And he also was. I like the Chadwick Boseman when he hosted SNL. Joked about the fact he's like, yeah, Sterling K. Brown got a host like 2 weeks ago, and he was out of the movie in the first 5 minutes.
I don't know how that works out, but This Is Us, I guess. That's a big.
Yeah,
phenomenon.
I guess. I don't know,
but 97% by critics.
Yeah.
Which I should have looked this up, but that is incredibly high again for a superhero.
I'd be interested to see what.
Iron Man.
Infinity War.
Ooh, Infinity War.
Which you're talking about what? There was 3-4 months in between the two.
Yeah, Marvel.
Which I mean, you're talking about like, man, here's this great character that the Black Panther stuff like that, and then the snap, and you're like, oh, he's gone.
They're all dead. Cool, nice setup. But are they though? I guess we'll find out in Endgame. Oh baby. So I mean, overall. Super impressed by Black Panther and hope to see it at least get some awards. I'm sure it will. And like I said, at the very end, we'll try to pick our decisions for what's actually going to win. But I'm not sure how that one's going to land yet.
We'll see.
We shall see. But nonetheless, Andy Serkis and Martin Freeman also little toss-ins for that movie.
I love Martin Freeman.
He's a great guy.
He's great.
So small. Up next, Black Klansman. I don't know how you would even pronounce that word because it is like all one word. Yeah, Black Klansman.
But it's Black
Klansman.
Yeah.
Directed by Spike Lee, whom he made. Everyone's probably heard of Spike Lee at this point. He's
hopefully
famous for a lot of things, like School Days, Do the Right Thing, Malcolm X. He's also helped direct the stories on like NBA 2K and a couple other things as well. He's got
Not his best work.
No,
I played through
no.
it. It was okay.
He's got his hands in a couple of really cool things though, and he's been known to bring some gold to us every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was Black Klansman, I will
Yes.
say. So if you guys didn't know, Black Klansman, I guess, is a true story, sort of.
Crazily enough.
Yeah. About a guy named, is it Ron? Yeah, Ron
Mhm.
Stallworth, who is an African-American policeman in Colorado that was essentially, he wanted to be a cop his whole life, and he got assigned to just do normal stuff in the cop precinct, but then essentially said, hey, I want to do more and be a detective, and took on the KKK.
Yeah. Found an advertisement in the paper, made a phone call,
Made him
sound white, I
yeah.
guess, and got in all the way up to David Duke,
who was the head of, I forget what his title was.
He was the grand wizard of the KKK.
Gosh, man. And Topher Grace plays the Grand Duke, which I thought was funny.
It was. He played it quite well.
What's nuts though is like, so this movie was set up as a comedy for the most part, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, everything you see from the preview and stuff like that. I mean, you can tell action,
It's
comedy.
it's a fun story.
It's a fun story. It's that's a true story. But man, look at this. A black guy got him with the KKK. And,
Yeah. Well, and I didn't know it was a true story until the end when they like kind of told us the story of these people and showed pictures, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that was a real thing that happened.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, you're set up, and it was great. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. I mean, there were a lot of definitely very tense moments, like when he's like hiding in the rafters in the church, and I guess when they're having the little like banquet hall after Adam Driver is basically like, I don't know, inducted into the KKK, whatever the process of him actually joining, and then like like they're talking to him and he's not responding, and then he hears David Duke hears Ron talk, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh wait,
he might make a connection.
Wait a
sort
minute,
of.
yeah, and yeah, it was intense, and it didn't pull any punches, but at the same time, like you go through the entire movie, you're like, this is super intense. This is like a crazy undercover cop story. Like, how are they going to pull this off? But at the same time, it's like there's so much levity in it, and there's so many like jokes, and the whole situation in and of itself is kind of comical because you're talking about like a black dude getting with the KKK, and that in and of itself is really funny.
Yeah.
And then Spike Lee goes and is like, "Oh, you had a good laugh. Okay, here's Charlottesville, and let me remind you what all this stuff does, and let's look at this, and we'll look at what stuff comments our president's been saying." Like, and all of a sudden you're just like, oh God, we've learned nothing.
I was just happily just pretending like this wasn't existing, and now I'm like, okay.
Which I mean, I think we'll get into this, but I think Green Book kind of does a little bit too.
Yeah.
In a much happier ending way, but.
A nuanced way, yeah.
Yeah, this is very much like, you've enjoyed this last 2 hours of your time where, oh yeah, it's a funny story.
Cool story. It works out in the end.
Everything works out in the end, but,
it still is a present and serious problem in the United States. So that was, I mean, perfect. I think a perfect setup and like just contrast right at the very end. Because, I mean, movie ends, it's playing good music, and then the sound cuts off.
Well, they do that. They're at the table, right, and they hear the noise, and they go and they stand up, and it like zooms out, and there's the cross that's burning like way off on the hill, and then all of a sudden, just kind of like flash forwarding to modern day, and you're like, yeah, okay. Sometimes I come to the movies to escape, and then the world finds me at the movies,
and then I remember,
and I'm like, yeah, okay,
this is I try to. I guess
KKK and Nazis are still a thing today.
Oh, great, good, awesome. But I mean, across the board, I actually had never seen John David Washington before. So the guy that plays Ron Stallworth, and again, I should have done back research on all these actors, but I thought he did a great job. He played the role perfectly of just being this like cheery, I want to do good, police officer. But at the same time, also like I care about the
Mhm.
problems that we have in America
Mhm.
right now, and I'm going to try and fix them.
Well, he kept pushing it too. Like it
Yeah.
was just like the cops being like, "Yeah, don't go after this. Don't go
Yeah,
after this."
don't
He's
do
like,
it. He's
"No,
like,
I'm going to go after
I'm
it."
gonna,
Like,
I'm gonna keep doing it.
yeah. And I think the thing I really enjoyed about the movie too is that the pace was so well done. It wasn't like you were sitting in, him having to sit through like 20 minutes of, actually doing other random police work and stuff like that. It
Right.
was literally like he gets on the desk, he opens the newspaper, which, typically you're thinking like, okay, we're going to get into like kind of some sort of like stalled out thing. It's like,
He's going to talk to his friends or
okay,
whatever.
cool. Hey, I'm looking to join the KKK. Like,
yeah. Hey, this is Ron Stallworth.
Stallworth. Yeah. And like, so it's just funny because like, I don't know, the pacing of it was so well done. Like I was never like bored. I never thought it dragged at any point. Yeah, and then it hits you like a bag of bricks at the end. But
That's
I
well
mean-
done. That's cinema, baby.
oh yeah, I mean it was very well acted by. Let's remember the name again. I don't have it
Sorry.
in front of me.
It is John David
John David Washington.
Washington.
Him and Adam Driver.
Flip Zimmerman, the classic name. Laura Harrier as
Mm-hmm.
Patrice, and Topher Grace as David Duke. And honestly, I think
Was Patrice like the crazy? No, Patrice
no,
was that.
Patrice was his
Okay, yes, I know you're talking
was
about
his love interest.
the crazy white
The
lady-
wife
Yes,
of the
the Klanmen that was like where they were meeting in the house and whatnot.
yes.
She was crazy.
Well, I mean that honestly, those scenes were so well done as well, but because you're not that like I don't think Spike Lee was ever. I think it was all comical, and especially like when you were seeing the KKK meet, like just kind of how dumb they were, or like just like some of the things that they would do.
Yeah,
But he also like was able to evoke some sense of humanity from some of these people. Like the
Mhm.
guy that he initially befriends, that he talks to on the phone, like you
yeah,
kind of like him because he is like at least nice, and
he's nice, but
he's not questioning of what's his name.
right because
because
the
he's-
other guy's like,
Yeah,
"Are you a Jew? Are you a Jew?" Like
Yeah.
going on all of this. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot more offensively than just "Are you a Jew?" But
yeah,
going in on all that, but it's the other guy's like, man, come on, like
yeah.
leave him
He's
alone.
cool.
Like, he's good. And
He's
like,
cool. He
and-
hates everyone like us. Yeah,
Yeah, and then like it was the little quips like that to where you're like, oh, I kind of like. Oh wait, he's a Klansman.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, I
Yeah.
don't. No, I don't like this guy.
yeah. But he at least gave them some humanity.
Yes.
Where you're like, okay, these are people,
Yes,
and they live in a home just like everybody else. So you kind of realize like how that stuff can even still exist.
yeah, and again, I think it was done so well that you go through this entire movie to where it's like, oh, we're talking about the 70s, and like like and
We've
then
progressed.
yeah, it's like, oh yeah, we don't have to deal with that today. Oh, we don't have cross burnings and
It's fine.
and yeah, people run around in hoods and stuff like that, and then you're like, oh yeah, because they're not in hoods, they're with tiki torches and white polos in the middle of
Yeah.
UVA's campus. But whatever,
Well, if anything,
it's lasting.
I think it's been something that's been long dormant, and
Mhm.
I think it's just this is a good reminder of like, hey, this stuff still pretty much
Mhm.
exists in a lot of places, so just don't forget
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
Just don't overlook it because that's how a lot of evil gets done. Is just people,
Yeah,
good people, just don't want to bother themselves with this kind of stuff. So that was perfect in how this
Yeah.
movie was set up.
yeah,
So overall, though, I mean, yeah, I would say this movie, up there out of this list at least in terms of ones that I really enjoyed to watch.
yeah. And I mean, the fact that we're still having these kind of like memories and flashbacks. I mean,
Yeah, vivid, like, oh yeah,
oh yeah,
that's what I remember from that movie. Yeah.
Which I mean, it speaks to the lasting effect of the movie. And again, this is one that came out in. It wasn't quite November, I don't think. I think it was September, October, somewhere
And
in
it
there.
didn't have a big drop. Like I don't
Mm-mm.
really remember that movie making a lot of waves.
No, I mean, I can remember. I remember, kind of when it initially came out, and like people being like, "Yeah, this is a really good movie." What's the critic score?
95
Yeah.
or 90. Yeah, 95.
So I mean, it's right up there. But yeah, I don't remember it being ever like, oh my gosh, did you go see Black Klansman? Like people were
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, did you go see Black Panther? Like everybody went and saw Black Panther.
Yeah, really. Out of this list, the two that were the most popular, at least, were A Star Is Born
Uh-huh.
and The Black Panther.
Uh-huh.
Black Panther.
Yeah.
The other ones were I would say reasonably like kind of low key.
Yeah.
They weren't as big
Yeah.
of a deal.
No, I agree with that.
Or I feel like in previous
Vice
years,
is a little. I would maybe put Vice in that just because Vice was promoted so much over the last. Oh, the DualShock.
the DualShock is disconnected. That's okay,
Unfortunate.
Zach. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, okay, all right. Like Vice was pretty, heavily, but even that like didn't have
I think it's
as much kind of.
Vice had some punch because of the people that are playing in it.
Yes.
People know Christian Bale and like.
We'll get there.
Yeah. So, anyways, BlacKkKlansman. If you guys haven't seen that, check it out. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
This next one I just recently watched, so it's very fresh in my mind. But Bohemian Rhapsody,
Yeah, same here.
61 by critics,
Yeah.
directed by Bryan Singer, who pretty much X-Men.
Yeah,
That's
and
pretty much all he's done.
there's, I think that right there is
Yep.
probably why this is not going to win because the
Yeah.
Academy probably doesn't want to give the award to Bryan Singer.
Well, and you can see a lot of the pitfalls. You can just see a lot of like how and Bryan Singer's a very talented director. I don't want to discredit him at all, but you can kind of see some of that same formula being put into this, and you're like, okay, I kind of see the storytelling you're kind of going through here, and I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. But Rami Malek,
it's fantastic.
very high chance that he'll win for actor just because of, I mean,
It's probably between him and Christian Bale, I would assume.
yeah, gosh. I just hope we don't reward people for method acting and being that crazy about putting on weight and losing
But we
weight and
always do
changing their
that.
bodies.
We
It's
always
so
actually no.
unhealthy.
Wasn't this was the first time that he did a fat suit?
He did it faster this
We'll
time?
get there, but I think he
Oh, thank
finally
goodness.
said like, no, I'm not doing this to my body.
I'm gonna die. Yeah,
Yeah,
probably for the best.
Yeah.
But so Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm a big fan of Queen, and
Same.
by big fan, I think I'm more very just interested in the story of Freddie Mercury and impressed by who he was and what he was,
Yeah.
and how talented he was. Because I mean, like I remember I went through a kick a long time ago where I would just watch old performances of him and just see how like effortlessly he would sing, and I'm like, man, how does he do that, dude? That's just insane.
it really is like.
So from a pure like musical standpoint, I just totally respect him.
Mm-hmm.
And then getting this backstory is just really fun. Getting to see kind of how the band was built and
Yeah.
the stuff they had to go through. But I think this movie, unfortunately, was a little bit damaged by the biopic that Sacha Baron Cohen was supposedly supposed to be doing on him. He was set to play Freddie Mercury before this was even, I think, in the works. And he was much more interested in telling the story of Freddie and showing more of a darker side of, like, this is kind of who he was. Like, the whole party side lifestyle.
Right.
How crazy he was and all these big things that he would throw and stuff he would just do. He wanted to tell that story. And this one was a much more, knowing what he wanted to do compared to this was a much more watered down experience of just like, it's Queen.
It's Queen, and
And
here's
you
guys. There's some craziness, but it's Queen.
You guys know their songs. They're cool. Yeah.
Huh?
And I think
Is he still making that, or did
no,
he, Okay.
it got shut down because they didn't want to do it. Queen didn't want to showcase any of that stuff. They wanted to just, because they're still touring and doing stuff. They're like, we don't want to damage any part of the band, and they had to like licensing was like super expensive for like a lot of the songs that he wanted to use. So just he was like, no, I'm done. I'm out. So
Interesting.
I'd be really curious to see what that was gonna be like.
Yeah,
But we still got this movie.
we did.
And it was fun.
It really was.
I would say it's a fun movie. I think Rami like perfectly embodied Freddie Mercury.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the teeth kind of weirded me out a little bit because like if you look at pictures of Freddie Mercury, it wasn't really that pronounced. Where like his lips were like jutting out, and he's like doing this all the time. I was like, that's not really what it looks like, but it's good.
It was. I mean,
close enough.
it was pronounced, not that pronounced. It was,
yeah.
But regardless, he was fantastic, and I mean, there definitely were points where I'm like, I'm watching a movie, but that's pretty spot on.
It's
there.
like Freddie Mercury to me.
Yeah, looks and sounds and acts like Freddie Mercury, and he didn't. Did he do the vocals? Right, he had somebody else singing.
I can't imagine he did. No.
I think he had somebody else singing. I obviously like some of the vocals that he did, like when he was first, like when he would just be like with the band and he'd like riff on something and say something. But I know like the big, especially that last performance,
Live Aid performance.
Yeah.
I don't believe that was him. Yeah,
No.
yeah. If it was, hey, props to you, man.
Also wasn't.
Sorry if we're not giving you any props for that because it was still cool.
I really don't think it was. I think I looked it up.
Yeah. That would be impressive, but if that was the case, he probably should be singing instead of acting, or doing both at least.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But I think what this movie did well was it did really tell a very condensed story of Queen. It gave us some backstory on Freddie. A lot of stuff we probably already knew. But
Yeah.
I think the way that they showcased the progression of his relationship with Peter, who was sort of the villain in this film, the guy that kind of was like taking control of him and abusing him, and eventually I think just came out to just get after him after like they split up and stuff like that. It was kind of a mess. Kind of interesting to see that relationship develop. And I'd already known about Mary, who like they remained friends for the longest time, and
there was a line in the movie, I think they said it, but like they actually said in life was just like,
she knows me better than anybody.
she knows me better than anybody else, and like, I'll always like only love her, or like something along those lines, like her, like my heart is always hers, but we're just not.
Yeah, and they kind of hinted at that a lot. Like whenever Mary, if he was somewhere, he'd be where Mary was. Like if they're at a party, is Mary coming?
And like him sitting in the room and calling Mary and be like,
yeah,
Mary, turn on your light, like turn it on and off, like let me see that. It was very pronounced about that, but
and like a good depiction of like probably how draining it was to probably be his friend.
Well,
even through that,
I think it also shows how much that being Freddie Mercury took out of him. Because it was, like there were all these different, big soirees and parties and, craziness going on. But at the end of the day, he still was like, ending up in an empty house with his
alone.
27 cats or however many there were.
Yeah.
And then, being like, okay, I'm just going to call Mary and I'm going to check in on her.
Yeah.
Which is, again, part of back to that, like, humanity side of it. Like, yes, we always picture Freddie Mercury as this, like,
rock
star, bigger than life, everything like that. But there's still, like, that
humanity, sad,
centering piece of that kind of emptiness of none of this fills what I really need and what I want in life.
Tale as old as time.
Seriously.
Something we all know, but still refuse to believe or, like, obey, essentially.
Yeah.
But, no, I think, this movie's a lot of fun, and I watched the actual Live Aid performance right after this film, and pretty amazing what they were able to evoke out of Rami. Like, they're almost like beat for beat, like the same movements that Freddie did.
I imagine they probably looked at that video and went, "Okay, this is how he did it. We're going to recreate this almost to a T." Because we don't want to give them something with like a Live Aid performance that tons of people who were live back then like completely remember watching that performance and knowing what was going on. Like,
we're not going to give him something that looks totally different.
Wait, he sang this song. No, he wasn't standing up there. Like he moved it.
And I think it was almost a beat for beat. Like it was the exact song lineup and length. I think it was like a 20-minute performance at the very end of the show.
Yep.
Because I didn't expect that. I was like, okay, they're going to like lead into this and then they're going to cut off. But they did the whole show. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool to see.
I think that was probably like, I don't know. It was cool, especially knowing like leading up to that, like he didn't have the vocal, strength that he had, and he was, really sick, and like everything was still kind of trying to like rebound and get to that point, and then like, there's something with Freddie Mercury, like it was like you flip that switch, and
he can
it's
just
like,
do it.
Okay, I'm performing.
Let's make it happen,
Mama. Yeah, like it just starts right in, and you're like,
oh yeah,
yes, you did just kill a man. Yep. Okay, here we go.
He just this movie, like, I just feel like had a lot of like ups and downs, a lot of like crescendos, a lot of climaxes, and like the very end, like it's kind of reminding me of like Whiplash, where you have this whole story of like him going through this stuff, and at the very end there's this huge like climax, but you're still kind of a little bit
after that lowest point. It's like
you're still a little bit sad because you're like, he's performing excellently again, but there's something sad after this where it's like he still is like obsessed with performing in the case of Whiplash, and then Freddie Mercury, it's like he's gonna die. So like that sucks, but still excellent.
It was a lot of fun.
A lot of
Yeah.
fun, but
I don't know.
it felt watered down still.
Yeah.
A lot of fun, but it did still feel watered down. They're just like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
all right. And then some of the moments are pretty cheesy. Like I know like they tried to like portray his parents in this movie,
Mm-hmm.
but like the dad finally coming around and like loving him for who he was. So I was like, okay, that's all right, fine enough. But he's like, turn on the telly, and I was like, that just seems out of place.
Yeah.
I guess they would say that. I don't know what they would say.
Yeah. I mean,
Telly's-
telly is the British form of it, but
And then, oh man, I almost missed this. Mike Myers being
yeah.
Mike
That's a-
Myers threw me off, man. He threw me off.
I told Leah because you were watching all the opening credits, like, oh, Mike Myers is in this.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent like most of the movie looking for it, and then like finally hit me like the last scene, like when I guess like they like cut away from the performance
Him
and just
sitting
show
in his
him
office,
in his office and like the
watching
sound.
the show.
Yes, and I'm like, oh, Mike Myers and a beard and
Well, dude, I caught it was him immediately. That was the weird. I was gonna say like
I didn't.
I just did not think that Mike Myers just sticks out so easily to me.
Yeah.
Because he did that for all his Austin Powers movies. He always played different characters.
Yeah,
So it felt kind of like that.
he did it with Inglourious Bastards too.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't this like I think with Inglourious Bastards the reason why you're like, oh wait, oh that's Mike Myers is because like it was so there was nothing that stood out. There was nothing. It was just very like
Very normal.
very normal. Like this is what probably Mike Myers looks like,
Mm-hmm.
on a normal day when he's dressed up
Yeah, he
like
had his hair
it.
combed over and a suit on.
Mhm.
Yeah, it took me a while in Inglourious Bastards to catch that. But
Uh-huh.
in this one, everything looked kind of like cheap.
Oh
Like-
yeah.
Like he had his big crappy glasses on, his like curly hair, big just kind of gross looking beard, and like a Hawaiian shirt.
And it was one of those things like I should have recognized sooner that it was Mike Myers, but like because I don't know if I just wasn't looking for it, that I just was like, I think I got to the point where I was like, I haven't seen Mike Myers in this movie. They really said,
That's who Mike Myers was. Yeah, I mean, you can even hear when he talks. His accent is so strong. Like it's hard for him to like make a different accent when he's talking to somebody. But it was
Yeah. But don't you know you have to? I don't want to say you have to feel for that guy like in real life, but like, what an idiot move. Oh man,
yeah.
you turned
Shutting
down,
Queen.
turned down Bohemian Rhapsody.
From a business
But
standpoint.
now, to be fair, so did a lot of
yeah,
British radio as well. They're like, yeah, it's terrible, but
we don't want this.
the Americans picked up on it,
Yeah, they knew it was good.
and then it re-released and was number one.
for a long time.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
All right, so Bohemian Rhapsody, probably not going to win, but still,
It's fun.
Rami might win for just
There's a chance, yeah.
being
Yeah.
awesome at acting. All right, the favorite.
Oh God.
So this is one that I did not watch, and you did you actually end up finishing it, or you like?
I finished it.
Okay, you finished it. I heard the ending was actually pretty interesting. It had like some symbolism with like the bunnies or like the rabbits.
I'm sure it did, but
You
at
didn't
that
care.
point, I was so lost in this movie that I'm like, there's rabbits, but it's like this weird, like, 70s overlay of like all the different, like, none of the pictures are like, so it's like you're seeing Queen Anne and
Abigail.
Thank you. I was going to like, not Sarah. Sarah was the other one.
Yeah.
Abigail and these rabbits, like, all like overlaying on the. I was like, I don't know what's going on, and I finished the movie, and I'm sitting next to Leah, and I'm like, what did I just watch?
She's like, I don't know either.
She didn't like.
Well, the rabbits are supposed to be her children that passed away, right? She tried to have 17.
That makes so much more sense.
Yeah, because she bought a rabbit for each of
Oh,
her kids that she
God.
tried to have.
I don't know how I missed that, but
Well, I only know it because I read the synopsis, so I probably wouldn't have caught it either.
all right. So I don't know if I was just like tired because fatherhood, but
No, dude. So I read the synopsis, and this
Oh,
sounds like one that I probably would not have liked to watch either. Directed by Yorgo Lanthimos, The Lobster was his previous work, which was also kind of symbolic and weird.
okay.
It was
I'll take your word for it. I didn't see
it was Colin in Bruges. Colin, it's not Colin Firth. Colin Farrell, I guess.
Colin Farrell.
Okay. It's like they go to like a hotel to die, and you can pick which animal that you want to be reincarnated as, and he wants to be reincarnated as a lobster. It's a very weird movie. So that was The Lobster. So
Okay.
this is his follow-up film, and it's
Now, to be fair, very well acted.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
a little too well acted. So Olivia Colman plays Queen
Mhm.
Anne.
Which she was, especially when like Queen Anne would get into her like
Her fits.
hissy fits, like
Yeah.
or whatever, like screaming, and you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I would okay.
I'm very
Yeah.
uncomfortable right now. Very uncomfortable.
Yeah, she was very, very intense, but then like very like jokey and jovial, and then like instant like
Crazy.
stop the music.
Yeah, crazy.
No, stop. And I mean, she did very, very good as Queen Anne.
She will probably she's absolutely going to be nominated probably for Best Actress.
She is.
I would assume.
I
yeah.
believe so. I know she won a lot of the other awards. I believe she's probably up for it, but we don't really get into best actors and actresses, stuff like that. Glenn Close is probably going to win it. I didn't see the movie that she was up for, but I mean, it's like the SAG and the Golden Globes both went to her, so
probably high chance that she'll win that one too.
Yeah.
Okay. Glenn Close. Good job.
For whatever movie you did, I didn't see it.
We didn't know.
Sorry, we're focusing on these 8.
Emma Stone plays Abigail, and Rachel Wise as Lady Sarah. So from what I read, and again, I only read this, so I apologize to all the listeners out there. This is the one that I did not actually watch. It just sounded like it was a sort of dark comedy.
Oh, it was very dark comedy. Yeah.
Okay. But almost a little too dark sometimes. It's
Sometimes
what it sounded like to me when I read through it. I was like, this is pretty dark.
Well, and the crazy thing is, and this is where I'll say, like, I'm watching this going like, what is going on? Like this is literally like insanity. It's like people like jockeying for position the entire time, and like power grab. And the ironic part is that usually you see when it's like power jockeying stuff, like it's men jockeying for power, stuff like that. Like it's all women that are jockeying for power. Like even like when the prime minister and like the leader of the opposition, like when they're having their little back, it's still fueled by Sarah and by Abigail.
Yep.
And so it was cool to see that. Like you usually don't get that whole like
the inside look of like what potentially politics or like royal stuff could look like.
And I will say, especially since it was the royal side of stuff, and it was the queen who was in charge because the king had since died, so the queen was in charge. It actually, this is mostly true.
Yeah,
it's
it makes sense.
Mostly true story.
Yeah,
and that's crazy because like there's so much like so much craziness going on. Like people who are like the lords of parliament are like. There's this one point where they're basically having like. Not like a food fight, but they're like pegging food at this like overweight naked dude.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, just like pegging him, and like it's all this craziness. There's always like something crazy going on. There's like these cutaway scenes almost where it's like, what is going on in the palace?
Yeah.
And it's and I will say the good on you for showing this to the director who, I don't even want to try to pronounce his name, but good on him.
Yorgo Lanthimos.
Cool. Is that from what I read after kind of watching this and just being like, I need to make sense kind of what actually happened during this time frame, is like he probably showed what was actually going on in court better than any movie previous had ever done.
Yeah.
Because everything tries to, tame it down, and the court is this royal, dignified place of, we can't let, we're above everybody else. It was a crazy free-for-all.
Oh yeah, I mean that was like the Renaissance. That's just like that. That's what that is.
Yeah, but just like it was like
a true depiction of human nature.
There's an aspect, I guess, part of it where you get this, very true to the turn of the century of the 1700s, like very true to that time frame, but just showing kind of like the raunchiness and the backstabbing and all this other stuff where you're like I'm a history teacher. I know some of that stuff kind of goes on, but again, all the history teaches you to know is like, oh yeah, well,
this person succeeded this person,
and this. And so you get some stories like that. But like, I started reading it, and I was like, okay, is all this stuff like legit? And I'm reading it, and everybody's like,
legit.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's what it was like.
Like they took some liberties, especially with like the relationships between like the queen and with Sarah and the queen and with Abigail. Like they took some. Well,
what I liked about this story is that like they again, like you said, it's all women
Mhm.
that are vying for power in
Mhm.
this situation, and they're using all the exact same, I guess what you would say is tactics to gain power. They use sex,
Mhm.
violence,
Mhm.
and just like
Oh yeah.
connivery to like try and
Oh yeah.
like convince somebody of something
Which
else.
which ironically is, like you would have to probably think at that time, at least in court, you have the queen who obviously has the most power, but she's like super sick and like she
She's
have
kind of she's
terrible gout and all this other stuff, and
very
she's like
frail.
very frail, and so you have to assume if you are a lady in the court that if you can get to that top tier
You have the
lady in
power.
waiting, you have the ear of the queen every minute of the day, and you can
Mhm.
literally influence and control everything that happens, which Sarah did very well.
Yep.
Until somebody else came along that played the game just as well as she did, and even more so when it gets to the point where Abigail basically poisons Sarah and almost kills her.
Yep. Didn't kill her.
Didn't kill her. She got rescued at
Just got pulled away a couple miles, couple 50, 100 miles. I don't know how far away on a horse.
and rescued by
A
brothel,
Yeah.
and basically was like held against her will, and
Finally,
until the
she paid,
queen's men came and
saved her.
found. Yeah.
Oh gosh, the story is nuts.
The story's crazy. And it's actually crazy, but then when you look at it and go, okay, well that's actually a true depiction, so good on you with that. I did not like the movie at all. It's just like, I mean, there was a lot of points where it dragged, and it's like if you're not fully paying attention, the movie's already past you.
Yeah.
Like in
How long was the movie?
it was like right at 2 hours. Like it wasn't even that long.
It just felt very long.
It moved like so. Like where I talked about the pace of Black Klansman
Yeah.
was like, yeah, you're getting right into it, kind of the storyline, stuff like that, but it still lets you kind of sit there and you can clearly follow what's happening.
Right.
This is like if you missed one 1 minute segment, you might be lost for the entire movie. Like it moved that quick. And like it gave you these like weird like the times that you would have to kind of process and catch up on like the slower moments was replaced with these like scenes of like dudes pelting tomatoes and oranges at naked, like, so like you're so distracted by what's going on the screen that you're like, what am I supposed to be like focusing on?
Did he remember the last conversation they just had?
Yeah,
or
because
am I supposed
it's like
to be remembering?
there were
this
so many
naked
jarring.
dude?
Yeah, there were so many jarring moments in this movie that you're like, and I don't want to like sound like a prude by any means, but like there's so much that was going on where you're like, I don't know how to feel right now in this moment. And coupled with that, there was he used the fisheye lens on his camera shots.
Not your favorites.
Which is not my favorite. Like I mean, I've done enough, filming and editing and stuff like that, like within high school, like my dad being a high school media teacher, that I've been around enough. You use film eye in very kind of like when you kind of want to show like that, I don't know, like crazy fan cam type deal, like where it's like, here's a wider angle of all the the crowd going on and stuff like that. You do it there. When you're doing that as a shot of like, Emma Stone standing in the middle of the hall, but then you have like a fish, and you can even see like on the edges where it's kind of like darker, and you're like, it was like, it just was distracting, and I didn't like it, and I just this is one of those movies, like I was telling you before we started, like it was one of those movies that reminded me of, and I can't even remember the name of it, but the one that Daniel Day-Lewis was in last year.
Something about the dress guy.
Yeah,
they make what it's called.
Yeah, he made the dress and stuff like that. Like it was so like, I just was like, I'm like, why are we
so
not
dense? I guess, or
not? I don't even want to say dense. Like this was probably better than that one.
Yeah,
but it was just one of those movies where I kind of came on the other end, and I was just like, I don't know what we just watched, and I don't know like why
that was included or why these scenes were necessary.
Which
to the story.
again, sitting there looking at it and going, okay, it's a true depiction of this thing, and it was told really well, and it showed all the craziness, but at the same time, I was like, it just.
Yeah,
well, I didn't like it.
It's kind of
what's the critic score on it? Because
pretty high.
Seriously,
94.
Why?
Well, so this is kind of, I feel like, how we felt about The Shape of Water, though, too. Like, The Shape of Water, for all intents and purposes, was a very cool idea, I think, told well enough, but they added a lot of jarring scenes to that you were like, why was that included? Like, why? Like,
I don't know.
I get
I
it.
think it still would replace like sex with a fish dude
Yeah,
for some of the scenes I had to watch. Like,
Yeah.
'cause it just was like,
I'm sorry. Yeah, well, and I know it wasn't
man.
incredibly graphic, but from what I read, they were like, it still was very like, you very well knew what was going on when they would show stuff, and
Oh yeah.
it was like kind of like
Oh yeah.
what's the word, aggressive, I guess, is what you could how you could describe a
Mhm.
lot of those scenes. You're like, oh, this is bothersome and uncomfortable, and I don't
Yeah.
really want to
And,
be sitting here
and like
watching this.
even like and so like okay, so even at that, there's one scene where Emma Stone and her new husband, they just got married, so there's some deeds happening,
Yes,
and it's like it's not
good
on.
description. Good description.
It's not.
I appreciate that.
You don't see it on camera because like the way that Emma Stone has positioned her body has blocked what's going on behind her, but you still see like dude's face.
You know what's going on.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you know
and
what's
so
going
like you're like, why am I? But at the same time, she's having almost like a soliloquy, where she's explaining her thought process. And for I don't know if that's like when she's deciding like, oh, I guess I'm just gonna have to go and poison her and take things more into my. No, I guess it wouldn't have been because she'd already poisoned her at that point. I don't know if it was something about like this is how I can influence like all this, but it was very
But she's
poignant.
so removed.
It was yeah, she's so removed from that, but at the same time, like as an audience member watching that, like I can't get past the fact of like she's doing this, like, and you're like, oh, what are you like? And
Like,
she's telling all this very
ugh.
important details,
Ugh.
right? For her thought process of what's going on, and basically giving you this insight to it. But I'm too distracted.
By what's going on in this, yeah, and that obviously intentional.
Oh yeah,
It sticks with you, and it makes you be like, I don't like that. It reminds me of The Master. Did you ever watch that movie?
no, I did not.
Very similar scene.
Yeah.
Very similar scene, and you don't see anything, but it is very bothersome, and you're just like, this. I am very uncomfortable right now with watching this.
I know what you're talking about, but I didn't see it.
Oh gosh.
Anyways, I did not like this movie at all.
It's good to have a strong opinion. I like
And the dude's up for like best cinematography, and I think if he wins best cinematography, I might throw up.
You're gonna quit.
I might throw up, and I might like never join another like. We'll still do this. We'll
Never do a
we'll
film podcast.
But
Yeah.
no, we'll do this one. But like, I will never like join into like an Oscars like pool because I don't even know like at that point. Like
If you see a movie that's gonna be like this, just don't watch it next time.
yeah, I didn't know because like again,
But then we can't give a comprehensive analysis.
and
you
the
know?
and the previews didn't make it look that bad.
Yeah, I watched the trailer and I was like,
And you're
this
like,
looks like a fun,
Yeah,
weird movie.
It's a weird movie, but it's like it's gonna be.
A little more weird than you were thinking. Yeah. Hey, I'm proud of you, man. I'm
Thanks.
proud of you for watching it.
Okay,
I'm sorry you had to do that.
next one we gotta
Hey,
let's move.
We got 4 left.
Whew.
This is gonna bring us up here though.
Okay, yeah,
Green Book.
yes, just watched it.
Peter Farrelly,
Today.
who has directed Dumb and Dumber 1 and 2,
Yes,
Hall
which is
Pass,
very surprising.
Shallow Hal, Osmosis Jones, There's Something About Mary,
All like crazy.
Kingpin, like all such good early like 90s.
Good's an interesting
Comedies.
choice of words, but
Oh, Kingpin's great.
no, I'll give you that one. There's something about Mary.
Dumb and Dumber,
Dumb and Dumber
Excellent.
2.
We don't talk about that. We don't talk.
Yeah, Dumb and Dumber was fantastic. but
Osmosis Jones, come on. Shallow Hal was okay.
Shallow Hal was not that good.
Yeah, some of these don't age well. If you go back
No.
and watch Something About Mary or Shallow Hal or Hall Pass, you're like, these are all really bad.
Yeah,
But still,
Anyways.
nonetheless, all comedies
and then pulls out.
this movie,
Yeah.
Green Book,
Mm-hmm.
which is recounting a true story again about Dr. Don Shirley, who is a excellent pianist, and Viggo Mortensen, who plays what's his name, Tony Lip,
Tony
Tony
Vallelonga, which nobody could
Tony
pronounce.
Valley.
Tony Valley.
And what's funny about this, though, well, not funny, actually, this is not funny. What's cool about this is that, like, this gave a real depiction of, like, just, again, how messed up it was that even you had to literally have a green book, which gave you safe places to stay as an
Mhm.
African-American in America.
Mm-hmm.
These were places you could go to that were safe for you to go to, and
so
that was it.
So you could actually plan your trip and going, okay, if I'm driving from Memphis to Tupelo, Mississippi, here's the stops I can make without being like,
Yeah,
yeah,
which is just, ugh, they don't really actually make it as heavy as I feel like they could have.
yeah. They could have made it very heavy, and I think the scene you get the most heaviness of the movie is when they're driving in the car and Tony's basically talking like, me as an Italian living in the Bronx, like, I'm more black than you are because,
I like fried chicken and this kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah, just doing this whole motion, and he basically tells him like, stop the car, and he gets out and he's like,
if I'm not,
he's like, I'm not, like, when I go basically to play for a white club, basically, or like all white people, stuff like that. The minute I get off the stage, I'm just another black guy to them. But then I go back to, like my people, and I'm too white for them.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, like, he's gay, so he's like, I'm not black enough, I'm not white enough, I'm not man enough. What am I? And like that point, you're like,
ooh, that's heavy.
Okay, yeah.
I see what you're struggling with there. That's a lot to.
And that I think that hones it in. Like, you still see like, okay, here's a guy who's like not really going to stand up for the way that things are done in the South. But doesn't want to ever like pull any punches until he basically gets locked up, and he's like, "Fine, I'll call Bobby Kennedy and I'll get the AG on the line." And
that was a pretty cool scene.
That was a very cool scene.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this movie, man, I guess I haven't seen Viggo Mortensen in so long. Like, I can only think of him as Lord of the Rings.
I saw him in what's the one he did, like, where he was like, I think he won an Academy Award for it. It was like but it was like History of Violence, something like that.
Sounds right. Maybe I don't
one
know.
of the it was something with violence.
Okay.
So, but
Viggo's a violent guy. He's violent in this movie too.
He is.
But I think like just the entire setup of this, it's just having an expertly skilled piano player travel around all these places, and then finally when it all culminates at that last club that they went to, where he wasn't even allowed to eat in like the main room with everybody else, but he was allowed to play there.
He was allowed to park in the spot of the guest honor, like
yeah, but it's like he couldn't eat there, and like there's a lot of moments where you could see it depicted. I don't know. I think this movie was just it told a good story. I think, from critic reception, it's got an 80, I think just an 80% right now. You can see where they could have probably expounded a bit more on some of this stuff.
Sure.
Like, it did feel like very sped up, but again, it's, they're telling a condensed story in 2 hours or under, essentially. But like seeing his relationship with Viggo as they kind of go through this journey together, Viggo's just a very ignorant kind of rough guy, whatever. And we kind of see that he's racist in the beginning still. Like I would argue that he probably still was mildly racist.
Yeah, sure.
A majority of the film, but like you see kind of his problems in the beginning and kind of what he's dealing with. And then he's forced to basically take this job because they don't have enough money. And so then he kind of learns along the way, what it's like. And it's just, I don't know, it's a heartwarming story, and it's a cool story because Dr. Don Shirley was a freaking badass on the keys, so it was cool just to see all that.
Yes, he was. I really liked the movie. It's probably the only movie, I think probably Black Panther and this one, the only movie where I'm like, oh, I feel good after this. Like,
that was a nice story.
Yeah, I'm gonna go home and The rest, it's like, I need to go home and hold my kids close to me.
I need to think about things. Yeah. Well, and maybe if you didn't watch the credits for Black Klansman, you might feel okay.
Probably,
still.
Yeah. Just if you want a happy experience watching Black Klansman, just minute the credits roll, just walk out.
But you probably shouldn't do that because
then you'll miss the point of the movie.
Yeah, that's not the intention. Yeah.
No.
But I mean, really nothing else to say about Green Book beyond the fact that it's just a cool story.
It's good. It reminds me a lot of Remember the Titans. Just not with like the. I mean, it was deeper than that because it wasn't just like, I'm black, you're white, we're playing football, and that's going to bring us together, and now, we're brothers. Like, I love Remember the Titans. This is a little deeper because now you're getting, like, how do you deal with the notion of I'm supposed to fit into this culture?
Yeah.
and I'm supposed to, I'm supposed to eat fried chicken and
But I'm not like
okra and collard greens, but I've grown up in this whole scenario where I'm highly educated. I'm a doctoral philosophy and
Yeah.
music psychology and music and all this like, and everything is like refined taste on everything, but it's again you're seeing this whole isolation, kind of going back to that Freddie Mercury thing,
Yeah.
right? There's nobody that when he at the end of the movie he goes home and it's Christmas Eve and he sits there and he sends home the guy who's working for him there, and he kind of just sits there and
He's by himself.
and
It's sad.
and at that point he's kind of like, yeah, you're right, I don't have. He's still playing with this whole idea of like, I'm still black to the white community and I'm not black enough for the black community, and I'm not straight enough for the normal whatever
Manhood community.
whatever.
Yeah.
And at that point, and it's kind of like but I got one guy who kind of knows
me.
and knows kind of what I'm dealing with, and we've been through this, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna go hang out with him on Christmas Eve.
And that was a heartwarming. Like, oh,
Yeah.
that's nice.
And you're like, yeah, this is.
Yeah.
For me, being the last one of these movies that I saw, I was just like, yeah, this is a good way to end it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and it gives you the the pictures of them actually, which is cool
Mhm.
too. You get to see them actually, like what the actual people
Yeah.
look like. Like that's
Yeah.
cool. It's nice.
Yeah.
Nice little heartwarming story. So.
I really enjoyed it. I'm not like, I can't really. There's nothing really bad that I can say about this movie. Like,
I think just more exposure, like more,
yeah.
just more character, like because he talks about like his relationship with his brother.
That was the only thing that I was like, is he?
Yeah.
Was he in jail? Like, is that like?
I wanted to know what
he said something about, like, doesn't matter where he is, whether this or in jail. Like, I was like, well, is he in? Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't really get any depth on that.
Yeah, because we got to see Tony Lip's and relationship with his
Mhm,
wife
mhm.
and that whole situation kind of grow, but then you didn't really get to see Dr. Don Shirley. You just got to know that he was struggling internally instead of like, okay, well,
And the only thing was like,
what does his family look like?
and
What
the
is it?
line of like, there's millions of people around the world, millions of lonely people around the world that are, just if one of them would just start to, like, if they all decided just to make the first move and not wait on that other person to,
Yeah.
do something like.
It's a nice thought. I
Yeah,
like
it was.
that.
Yeah,
It was nice.
it was a nice movie. I
It was nice.
enjoyed it.
It was nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Up next, Roma.
Yeah.
So was this a Netflix? Yeah. Which is pretty cool, honestly. When this popped up, I didn't even know if it was like nominated or what what people thought
Mhm.
of it, but I remember seeing just the screenshot,
Mm-hmm.
the black and white, and like just the how Netflix, if you leave it on, it'll start playing the trailer
Mhm.
or whatever for you, and I was like, that looks really good. Like,
Yeah.
we should watch that.
And then it turns out that
it was really good.
Netflix's first nominated Academy Award movie, so they're going places.
So
And I
directed,
think they have a very good shot at winning.
I think so too,
Anyways,
from a cinematic standpoint. So Alfonso Cuarón, I don't pronounce his last name. Alfonso Cuarón.
yeah,
Cuaron. Cuarón.
C-U-A-R-O-N.
Oh gosh, that's embarrassing. I had a C in there. Gravity,
Yes.
previous movie, was excellent.
Love Gravity.
Didn't know this one. Harry Potter,
Yeah.
Prisoner of Azkaban.
Uh-huh.
It's got a few in there.
Uh-huh. Which is when it turned to be really good. Like, that's when.
Kind of took a turning point. Although that's when John Williams also stepped out as directing the music for it, and I was like,
Yeah,
nah,
but-
I like John Williams.
Yeah.
You get the theme,
Yeah, I know. Well, and you still got the theme. Like, you still.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
They got Alexander Desplat in there.
I love this plot.
He's really good too, though. So I don't. I mean, I'll list the cast off, but these are all, I think, first time actresses.
Well, I'll say probably in like
in
American,
Yes.
culture or whatever we want to call that. But
Yalitza Aparicio, Marina de Tavira, and Diego Cortina Autre.
Yeah.
Those are the main three that you probably see. So Yalitza is Cleo, who is the main woman that we're following around.
Yeah.
And then Marina de Tavira is Senora Sofia, who is the homeowner. And so Cleo is the housemaid for Senora Sofia.
And the whole story follows Cleo.
Yep.
And
Man.
yeah, it's a tough movie to watch. It doesn't start that way.
No.
No,
Starts
you kind
off
of get
simple.
like
It's very simple.
it does a very good job at setting up kind of, all right, here is everyday life.
Yep.
And we're going to take the time, and we're not going to kind of like let you, we're not going to drop you right into the conflict.
And you're not going to know kind of what this means until down the road.
No, so all you're really seeing is you're seeing, okay, here's what her job is. The thing I love about this movie, probably more than anything else, is the cinematography of this.
Yeah.
Is incredible.
I was just going to say
there were numerous shots that you're talking lasted, a couple minutes.
They were long. The opening shot is just him filming the floor, and you see the water washing across the tiles, and like the reflection of the
sky
above, and you're like, okay, this is interesting.
And the ironic part is that she was doing that to clean the dog poop off the,
which was a main recurring.
And then, kept recurring about the issue of
dog shit.
Yes.
Yeah, because I didn't know what it was at first. Like I didn't know when they cut out into the hallway, I was like, is that just dog poop? And you see it like a little bit. And then later, it's like really out of control. There's just dog turds like everywhere in that hallway.
Look, Boros had to go, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, like, really, now that I'm thinking about it, and I don't think I really appreciated it as much during the film, because I think that's kind of how when you watch film, you don't, oh gosh, what did I just knock over from my phone?
Yep.
You don't really think about that stuff until you reflect on it afterwards. But like even like the sound design, and this was pretty good, where the dog barking was supposed to kind of build up tension.
And the ironic part is that I was watching this with my dog sitting on the other side. I got Nico, my baby, in the swing, and both dogs. So every time the dog would bark, Willow would be like,
What the heck is that?
Huh?
What the heck is that? Albert will lose his mind. if a dog or any animal is on TV, he loses his mind. Like he freaks out and it sucks.
Yeah.
So we like had to like hold him down basically, so he couldn't like watch the TV when that was happening. But like there's a lot of moments of silence. I don't even know if there's any music in this movie. I couldn't remember if there was or not. If there was, it's very, very sparse or very sparse.
I think there is. I don't know.
But they go
a lot of natural sounds and a lot of. I remember watching like when the movie started. I was like, "Is the sound on?" Like, because it was just like sitting on that tile for a while, and then you finally get like a. Swoosh,
you hear
swoosh.
Yeah, I think the same thing happened to me. I was like, I don't know if the sound's up enough. I was like, let me turn it up. But yeah, very artfully done.
Yeah, I mean, it was visually incredible. Like I loved watching the movie.
And so I don't know the full story behind this movie. I don't know if this is based on
I don't either.
anything that's. I should have looked this up. I apologize. Oh, Siri's listening to me right now. But it seems like it's almost set in a real situation where they're in a poorer part of this country where they live, essentially in this city. Everyone's super busy. Obviously, she's working for a wealthier family.
Yeah.
There's the dad is cheating on the wife. And I think really, I don't know if you got this whole movie was trying to evoke a sense of the strength of women, the strength.
Oh, absolutely.
The strength of how, like, what women have to go through.
Absolutely. And
still maintain, like, their sanity.
100%. I agree with that. I mean, just between, with Cleo, with Sophia, with the grandmother even in the house, with the other maid in the house.
Yeah.
Even with like the doctor in the hospital. Yeah. I think it was a mixture between like the strength of women and how shitty guys are.
Yeah.
Because they're terrible in this movie. They're just they're horrible, horrible human beings. I think all the horrible human beings in this movie are the guys.
And really poignant, like hard scenes too. Like the weird scenes, like kind of like what you're talking about with The Favorite, but like when Cleo and I forget his name, but the guy that's a real asshole.
Fermin?
Yeah, that sounds right. Like when they actually have sex, like
he's showing off his martial arts skills.
Yeah, he's showing off his martial arts butt
completely
naked
in the nude. And you're just,
it's a very poignant scene because like this is weird, but it doesn't seem out of place for this kind of person. Like
for him,
yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it was definitely in character. And
he's only put his values into martial arts, and like he thinks that he's just the greatest thing to ever happen to mankind. And so he doesn't care what happens.
it was really funny because like it kicks on, like when you start Netflix and then you see in the top corner, it's like rated R for like graphic nudity, and you're like, huh, wonder what that's gonna. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's a penis.
Just a whole lot of wiener.
It's a
Just a whole,
penis, and it's
just
just
a regular
oh,
wiener. Just a
man.
regular old wiener.
And it oh, I was like, this scene would have had the exact same effect if he was just in like underwear.
But none,
It would have had the same effect for me.
yeah.
I was just like, okay, I get it. I understand.
Yeah,
You want to kind of show that he's this kind of like completely self-absorbed with his martial arts, that he doesn't care about anything else.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was just like, yeah, Hannah and I both were like watching that. We're like, okay, all right, yeah, we get it. All right. Yep.
Okay, yeah, you can put that.
The scene's still on him. Okay.
You can put that away.
But man, I mean, like, let's talk about just like, so basically what happens is the husband that's having an affair, Senora Sophia, he leaves essentially, doesn't come back. The kids go through like getting all dad's stuff out. You kind of see
at
that
the
whole
very end,
that whole transition. But
not up to that point. Up to that point, something's going on.
Yeah, you
and I think about
start getting
halfway.
hints.
Well, and this movie does hints about what's going on very, very well.
It builds slowly and slowly,
but not just with that, because you get this whole thing like where she's having. You can tell, Sophia is upset about something. You don't know what she's upset about.
And then you see like she's like, "Hey, make sure you write your dad a card. Like,
tell him how much we want him to come home and all." Like,
yeah.
And then you're getting okay. Then she's clearly angry with somebody at the hospital. She starts saying things of like, I saw him around, whatever, and
yeah.
And then like you keep getting all these things, and then it comes out. It's like, yeah, he didn't leave at all. He's coming out of the cinema, and that's him right there, and you just saw him, and then like it comes out like, yeah, we're separating. He's decided to cheat.
And that sad scene where like she's taking the boys to the theater, and the boys are like waiting at the theater because they ran ahead, and then his friend's like, I think that was your dad.
He's like, no, it wasn't.
He's like, no, it wasn't.
No,
and like he didn't see him.
Denial of it.
He didn't see him, maybe, or he just was denying it.
He was denying it, and then he was sitting outside the door when his mom was on the phone, basically, like,
yeah.
So you kind of everything builds like that, but at the same time too, and this is what kind of took me for a while. You're also seeing throughout the movie the buildup of all the military presence, and that there's something going on, with some sort of conflict that's just within this thing. So the
band was always marching down the street.
You had the band marching down the street. You just get kind of like weird little happenings that are going on, and then it kind of like culminates with this like
people in and out of the hospital a lot.
Yeah, well, yeah, and you had kind of something like that, but then you finally get when she goes out to the to try to confront Fermin.
Yeah, everyone's out there training the martial arts.
Yeah, you get this martial arts training, but then you realize it's like, okay, there's some military leaders out here as well, and and then so like the entire time I'm thinking like, and it took me like I didn't want to do this because so I didn't until the actual revolution or whatever. I think they actually call it the Dirty War, I think is the name of it, because it was like students protesting, very much like you see the signs of like Che and stuff like that, and then the military opens fire on like. But you're seeing a mixture of that. You're seeing these these people who've been training themselves in like this martial arts way. Now they're going and executing people in the department store, and and
what's her name? Furman was one of those people.
Yeah, and that's what sends Cleo, who got pregnant by Fermin, into labor, and
because everyone's trying to escape the town,
she can't get there.
She can't get there in time, and has.
And I mean, like watching that whole scene, which I mean, it'd be one thing, And again, this is probably just the way that medicine was back in the 1971.
Yeah,
is that they're basically taking her into surgery to do an emergency C-section. Well, not emergency C-section because he was already like crowning, but like there was no heartbeat, and like you're watching all this happen. Yeah, and it's again, you're talking about one of those continuous shots where it's literally like we're focusing right here. You have Cleo. And then in the background, you have the table where they're doing CPR on the baby. Yeah. And I mean, you're forced to sit there and watch that.
Yeah. It was.
And the baby's gone. And then it's like, do you want to hold your baby and say goodbye? And you're like,
Yeah, I don't think I breathed the entire time during that. It was just
And
such an intense, like,
and I will tell you, as somebody who 2 months ago to the day had a son, like that whole time frame. I mean, it's like we knew just because we have all the monitors and everything like that. Like our boy was good.
yeah,
He was healthy. He was not like
but still very much
Yeah, but I mean, you're still like
emotionally, like,
yeah, and I mean, you never know. Like something could go wrong in the last 15 minutes of pregnancy, and it might come out with the cord wrapped around his neck or whatever it might be.
right.
Like you don't know. So there's so much like angst and anguish that you're watching, a baby be born, and then it's like you get the relief of like everything's okay, he's good, like, and you kind of like breathe a little bit, and you're happy, and it's, and this is like there's something wrong. They can't hear the heartbeat. They can't hear the heartbeat. The baby's gone.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there like, and you're in the same shot the entire time, and you're watching that.
You're like, oh.
And I'm like,
it was heavy.
Because I'm sitting there, like, I got my infant son, like 10 feet from me, and I'm like, oh, okay.
I'm gonna pause this, get up, take a little breather.
Yeah, I was smoking meats that day, so it was a convenient time to go pause. I needed to check the chips.
I need to just go sit down there and stare into the flames.
But I mean,
just such a powerful movie, and
it really was, and it kind of culminates with basically, like, I guess she has the line at the end of the movie, after she rescues the two kids
from drowning.
She pulls them back in, and she's like, I didn't want the child, like I didn't want the baby.
Yeah, and that's also,
and you're also sitting there like, golly, but at the same time you're like,
you can sympathize.
You can sympathize because you're looking at it going, okay, yeah, Fermin was such a terrible human being that I could totally understand why you would not want to bring a child. Like,
yeah,
I understand that, and so it was just a mixture of kind of that, and it just was like
very powerful. Yeah. I mean, across the board, I think. Super well done movie.
Incredibly well done movie. Incredibly well acted all across the board. When I was older, I was a sailor, and I drowned in the storm because I didn't know how to. I love that kid so much. Yeah, it's an incredibly well done movie, and
I have a good feeling that it has a very high chance of winning.
Yeah,
because it was just so artfully done, and
just. What's the critic score?
96.
Yeah.
The highest, I believe, on this.
97.
I think there's a 97 for Black Panther.
Yeah.
But if I had to choose between the two, probably Roma.
Yeah, sorry, Black Panther. All right.
Star is Born.
My favorite thing about this movie is that Bradley Cooper spent like 6 months
learning how to sing.
Intensely learning how to sing and play the guitar. He is actually, like, the minute...
He did a good job.
The minute the movie started... I'm watching him starting to play, and I'm like, he's actually playing. Like, this isn't just somebody who's kind of like mimicking this and like the way they're doing the shots and stuff like that. I'm like,
he's singing.
He's actually playing, and he's actually. The ironic part is that he did his voice, like the way he modeled his voice, is he modeled it after Sam Elliott.
Ah.
And then basically said, well, if I'm already going to do this character, I might as well get Sam Elliott to be my brother. Well, and brings in Sam Elliott to be his brother. That's my very poor Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott over here.
That's a lot better, yeah.
No, I forget his name. What was his actual name in the movie? Not Sam Elliott. Jack.
Jack, yeah.
Was Bradley
Jack
Cooper's
Maines.
character. So directed by Bradley Cooper also.
Yeah.
Which I don't think I knew. And this movie has been remade 4 times.
Remade 3 times. It's the 4th movie.
Okay, so 1976. 1954 and I think 1937.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is nuts.
Yeah.
I didn't. So someone else told me that, like, oh, that's a remake of this one, and it had Julie. Is it?
So it was Barbara Streisand in the 70s, and then Julie Garland in the 50s.
Yeah, both.
And
how do you
you put in Lady Gaga? That's the only way you talk. I mean, that's the only way you do that.
How do you like make a movie that can even compare to it? But they did it, and I think they did it very well.
And the ironic part is that they did. It was Barbara Streisand and Chris Christopherson.
Yeah,
who's like, that makes sense. You're talking about rock and roll. Excellent guitarist. Yeah. Like that translates.
But you got Bradley Cooper.
Who
mainly an actor, but not anymore. Really, it looks like actors are just they can do whatever they want to. Apparently, it seems. But so I didn't actually know this story And I don't know if all the previous ones told the same story.
It told similar versions of the story.
Okay.
I mean, like same kind of progression.
Mm-hmm.
They all have different endings,
Okay.
and different kind of things that are being dealt with. So
Okay.
it, like, I think the one with Chris Christopherson ends up getting in a car wreck and dying. And the whole issue with him was that he ends up like cheating on the girl, and I guess feels so bad about it and goes out basically to get away and drives and ends up dying in a crash. So they all end with like
in a sad way.
They all end in a sad way. They all end with like she is singing the song that he wrote for her. Like
Aw.
it all ends that same way.
So this movie, you know, to Bradley Cooper's credit, he portrayed, honestly, I think, a really true depiction of what that lifestyle leads to if you're not careful.
And if you have alcoholic
yeah,
tendencies,
addiction problems,
yeah.
and you've had stuff in your past. I mean, like that. You know, it's a sadly very real story of what happens. Like, you know, his dad was abusive essentially, and you know, he talks about how he was suicidal when he was younger, and he's kind of carried that with him his entire life. Both he and his brother Bobby, which I don't think they revealed that Bobby was his brother until like
until
late.
he goes and punches him out and basically
late.
said you were supposed to take care of, you know, the land that we had dad on.
Yeah. And so, I mean, just like the movies with Bradley where he is like obviously very, very drunk and like drinking way too heavily were so memorable and like strong. Like you see at the beginning that he's just so drunk and he's just at a bar and he's just kind of talking, like making just like talking, and you're uncomfortable, but you're like, okay, well, you know, I guess this is just kind of maybe he's a rock star, whatever. And then you're introduced to Lady Gaga at that point, but it continues their entire relationship. You know, he's kind of on and off, on and off, on and off.
Well, and there's a couple moments in the movie that like when he gets out of rehab, or when he's about to get out of rehab, and Allie goes and visits him in rehab, is basically saying like, do you still want to come back home, because you know you've only ever known me and our relationship basically as an alcoholic. Now that you're clean, do you still love me? Like that was really like, man, that's
heavy.
That's tough. And then I mean,
the scene where she's accepting the award on the award show,
that was hard to watch.
That was really hard to watch. He like flops up on stage, and I'm pretty sure he peed his pants.
Oh yeah, he peed
on
himself.
stage.
Yep.
Yeah, and you're like, oh,
and that's what basically
gosh.
got him in rehab. But I mean, there's enough. The thing that I really liked about this movie, outside of the fact that, you know, Bradley Cooper's actually playing guitar and actually singing,
super talented,
and so is Lady Gaga, but we already knew that about her.
Yeah, we knew that. Yeah.
The thing I liked about this is that it didn't try to sugarcoat depression, alcoholism, you know, kind of like any of that, like that stuff. It very much was like, no, this is a disease, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to handle this in a way that shows what this is
and what it will do to people,
and what it does to people. But we're not going to basically be like, oh, just quit drinking.
It's fine. Oh, just get over it.
Just get over it. Like they don't. I mean, it's very much like, I mean, she has the scene with him where it's just like, you know, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's a disease. Like when they're in the shower, like when he's in the shower, he's being like hosed off. He's like, it's a disease. It isn't something that you can, you know, have full control over. Like,
oh yeah, and like she's like with the family, and her dad's like super pissed at him, and it's just like really hard because you're just like,
and it's just one of those like it doesn't point anything, and like and I think part of what it shows there at the end with that douchebag of a manager,
yeah,
and he comes in there and it's like I don't know. There's some part of me of going, okay, if I know that a guy is coming out of rehab
and he's already struggling with
he's already kind of struggling with all this stuff, and I'm gonna say like, you're killing her career by being around, and you just need to get lost. Like,
yeah. Well, and unfortunately, that's probably also how a lot of those big talent agencies work, where they're like,
oh yeah,
we only care about our client, and making money off of this, and you're hurting everything we're trying to do.
Yes.
And so that's all he cared about.
Ugh.
And Bradley was just like, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I've been performing for this long.
Now there's a line in the previews with Dave Chappelle,
Yeah.
and like they're sitting out on the
What's his
the
name? Noodles?
lawn. Yeah, I don't know.
George Noodles
Yeah.
Stone.
So they're sitting out on the lawn basically after Bozeman, and he's basically saying something like, this is the first time that I'm actually worried about you, that you're not gonna.
Yeah.
Was that in the movie? Because I don't remember. I remember, and this is.
I think so. I think it's in the movie.
Either I just completely didn't miss it, and so like when it gets to the end, and he basically like says goodbye to the dog, and he starts
Gosh, that was
walking.
so sad.
He gets in the car, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, this is gonna end up fine because he's gonna end back up in Memphis somehow. He's gonna end up in Dave Chappelle is gonna give him that kind of like, this is I'm actually worried about you.
Yeah.
Because I didn't hear that line. Maybe it's in there, and maybe I'm
so you
just,
didn't see that coming at all.
And so all of a sudden, like, it's like, oh,
No.
no, oh.
Well,
I was just like,
yeah, that part was hard to watch for Hannah and I, because like the dog got us too, because we were just like,
yes,
oh, that's so sad. It's so sad.
And he's
but
just
like
laying there, and you're like,
such a real depiction.
that's
though,
actually
again,
that's actually Bradley Cooper's dog,
yeah,
and his name is actually it's Charlie, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, actually named Charlie.
But a heavy movie,
so
but-
heavy.
but
It's
very well done.
Very well done.
I think the songs in it got nominated at the Grammys for.
It won.
It won
I don't remember if it was
I forget what they won.
whatever the single. I
Yeah,
don't know if it's record or out.
Shallow. I don't know.
Yeah.
What the song was.
She
But-
won for that, and it was.
It was cool.
Yeah, it was.
Because it was I mean, you don't think that a song written for a movie is going to get any like musical acclaim, but like you can. I mean, honestly, Hannah loved the soundtrack. She's like she liked a lot of the songs from
Yeah.
it, and she was like, I mean, so it makes sense that it got. And obviously, Lady Gaga had a big hand in making those songs. And
Yeah.
their entire.
I mean, it
team.
was. I don't have much qualms with this movie at all,
No.
and I think up there with Roma, probably a good shot.
Good bet. All right, last one.
Last one. Let's
Gosh,
do
I'm
it.
Getting tired.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
an old man.
Yep, same here.
Vice. Dick Cheney.
Maybe a true story. Maybe.
Partially true.
Partially true.
Yeah, this one's hard because it is so rooted in politics.
Yeah.
And the whole story of who Dick Cheney was.
And honestly, that's one of the reasons why it surprised me a little bit to be nominated.
Yeah.
Actor Christian Bale, sure.
Christian
Give-
Bale and even Sam Rockwell. I mean, it's just so fun seeing Sam Rockwell as George W. Bush. I was just
Yeah.
like, this is crazy.
I also didn't realize how much of like a
A goofball George W. Bush was.
well, no, I knew that. I didn't realize how much Rumsfeld was like so like because I mean you always see like Donald Rumsfeld and he's like serious kind of like I didn't realize how much of like a jokester and like
Yeah.
guy type deal.
Yeah. Though
that
they
he was like I don't know. It's just like it just seemed weird.
very much like Boys Club kind of
Yeah,
guy. Just
yeah,
hanging
yeah.
out with his buddies.
yeah. So it
I mean, so directed by Adam McKay,
uh-huh.
who previously had done The Big Short,
Uh-huh.
and then again, Anchorman 1 and 2, The Other Guys,
Mhm.
and a bunch of other films like that. With like Talladega Nights, he did a bunch of comedies,
yeah.
and so to jump into something like this again, which I would say this again is, in a sense, sort of a dark comedy. There's
Oh yeah.
there's some like funny moments, but the way the whole film was set up, I do feel like was trying to still portray this idea of like this guy really screwed a lot of things up
Oh yeah.
by assuming power, and he was
That
ruthless.
was not his.
Yeah.
And the fact that I mean, like when you're looking at even like the conversations that they were having, where they're like, it's interesting that on 9/11, why was Cheney's lawyer in the room with him when he was making these decisions? Like,
Yeah.
and like the way that they did play around with like, okay, it's very clear what the president can and cannot do, but what about the vice president? It's
Right.
not very clear there. So we're going to take a lot of liberties and
Who's calling the shots, and like
yeah,
the whole stuff with torture and
Mhm.
the different methods that
Mhm.
he kind of enacted, removing the ability to what was one of the laws that like was a big deal that he like removed.
It's been a while since I've seen the movie, so
Oh gosh.
a little bit.
Anyways, this movie did give me some insight into
Yeah,
how
definitely.
politics kind of works. I
Yeah,
still think there's a lot of things that people don't even know what's going on half the time.
yeah. I mean, if you want a good example, West
Yeah.
Wing. The West Wing is a great
I've heard
look
good
at
things.
that. Fantastic show. You definitely should watch it. It. The problem with this movie is that they admit in the beginning of the movie, this is true as far as we know. So it's kind of like that, like
There's a little bit of leeway we
don't
took.
know some of this stuff, and obviously some of these conversations we don't know if they happened or not. So we're just gonna,
I wonder how they did that because it is a biopic, but it's not.
yeah,
And then I think at the very end they had. Did you watch the mid-credits scene with the study group? Them asking if they thought it was like politically biased or like if there was any like political meaning to it, and that again pulled me away from the movie a little bit.
Yeah.
Where I was like, okay,
Now I will say some of the stuff too, though, like with you're talking about the focus group side
Yeah.
of stuff, like when you're talking about the focus group and how they, okay, well, it's not it's not what was like it's not climate change, it's
I know what you're talking about.
yeah, like where they like how they slowly change the words where it's like, well, this sounds really bad, and yeah, we can't have this, so let's change it, let's soften it up a little, like how they did that, and
Yeah.
like that that he did direct that stuff, and you're going, okay,
This is weird.
okay, but then again, this is kind of like the Black Klansman, where it starts showing here's these lasting effects that we're dealing with today, and it's showing the kids in cages, and again Charlottesville, and I mean you're seeing all this stuff where you're like, oh man,
Politics.
okay, this actually has a lot more impact on stuff today that we had no idea, because again, the biggest thing in the W. Bush era was the expansion of the executive powers, which
That's I think what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Where, like it enabled him to be able to do more.
yeah. I mean we're still dealing with that today, where we're talking about we're declaring national emergencies for
just because we want to make this thing happen.
which don't get me started.
I think what's interesting is the dynamic between Cheney's family though, and how he showed how much he cared about like his kids and stuff like that. But at the same time, also was like still so driven by power, like with his,
to the point where Liz starts running for it and basically disowns her own sister.
her own sister. Yeah,
Now that is interesting though, because Cheney himself, it's like the one thing he never like compromised on. He's like, not for us to decide. That's for the states. But if it's me deciding, I'd say let him have at it. Like, marry who you want to marry, go for it.
Don't care.
Like he very much like, and it's such like a weird dichotomy with who Dick Cheney is. It's like
you're on one hand you're like this, but on the other hand you're like super accepting of.
Yeah, he's like very caring of his family, and like wants to make sure that his children are taken care of. Like, it's so.
And I mean, I think that's one part that I think that's what I liked most about this movie, is that it was at least it gave you a little bit of insight into like maybe what different aspects of his life would look like and what those meetings would be like. But again, it's one of those ones where like if you're not super into politics, or like you don't, they did a good job of trying to make it interesting, but even still, it's one of those things where like it was a little slow. I mean, it's
a little slow, and
just all dialogue. I mean, you're just like, okay,
and a little too politicky.
Yeah.
To the point where if this did win, I don't think it's going to.
Yeah.
If it did win, I can imagine the president would be tweeting about liberal-leaning media and so biased. I can imagine that would probably happen.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a reason why they won't nominate it. I think there are better movies in this group than Vice. Because again, you're talking, what's the Rotten
66?
Yeah, so it's nothing. It's nothing to write home about as far as that, but
higher than Bohemian Rhapsody. But yeah, I think this one really just got some attention outside of it, because I think in a normal setting, if a movie was this imbued with politics, it probably wouldn't have been considered. But because Christian Bale,
I think because of the success of The Big Short, and that you're pulling a lot of those same actors into the same
Mm-hmm.
movie and adding, Sam Rockwell.
And you just having these really good
Uh-huh.
performances and just portrayals of these characters. That's kind of what gave it the extra edge.
Yeah.
But you're saying he used
I believe
used a fat suit.
somebody in the comments, tomorrow, check me on this one.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that he did the fat suit because he said that like after, stuff with what was the one where he went really skinny?
Oh gosh.
Machinist.
Every movie he's
Machinist.
in. Yeah.
The Machinist, he went like where it was like rib cage. Like I think
Yeah.
I think his doctors basically said like you got to stop doing this or you literally are going to kill yourself.
Yeah. Please stop.
And I think at that point, like, so he did fat suit. Now he still is method acting and all that other
He's
insane
still
stuff,
becoming the character by himself.
which
That sounds
and,
crazy.
And I will say, poor choice
Yeah.
to use that like speak to the camera.
Yeah.
It was very Frank Underwood,
Mm-hmm.
and I
It kind of broke the wall a little bit.
which I'm fine with it breaking the wall. Like I don't have an issue with the breaking the wall. I have an issue with it like being like the very much like, oh, I suppose you were, like that getting into that Frank Underwood type feel. Like I'm gonna talk directly to the camera and I'm gonna make you like feel like it felt too much like that. And I was like, coming off all the stuff we're dealing with Kevin Spacey right now, is that really the best choice to do to kind of wrap this up?
Let's not do that.
I was like, even if you just gave somebody else giving the diatribe about Dick Cheney, just not like Dick Cheney himself,
could have been better.
That felt like it was too reminiscent of House of Cards, and I just had like a cringe moment there. I was like,
no.
And even more so to like when Kevin Spacey released his own video on YouTube. Did you watch that?
No, I haven't.
He released his own defense of what he had done, basically, but as like Frank Underwood, but not.
Oh, that's weird.
Ugh. It just felt
not good. Felt gross.
Yes, I felt gross. So,
Vice.
Plenty
of good things in there, but not a lot to really talk about.
All right.
So
Wrap
if
up.
you had to pick one out of this list, what do you think's going to win?
After us kind of processing, talking through, I think Roma. I think
so too.
I think you especially hit it on the nail on the head. I think a couple things going, with Alfonso Cuarón is, powerful director that he has. You're also getting the power of women in there and a very much that whole, Me Too movement, stuff like that. I think that's going to play with the voters as well.
Underrepresented area too.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you're also going to play, if they want that kind of, we're not going to go as far as giving Vice the best picture because that's going to be seen as too liberal leaning and stuff like that. Let's show then the plight of these really strong and powerful Mexican women, because all the president wants to talk about is when Mexico sends their people, they're not sending their best, they're sending their it's kind of that like,
it's like no,
let's show you what the strength of these women are,
and not only from that standpoint, but just from a technical standpoint, and what we're looking at from cinematography and sound design and
acting, and you're not pulling these like, we don't need a Christian Bale or a Emma Stone or
nothing felt poorly acted, which is the best thing I can say about this, because like even some of the other films, like even some of the scenes in like Bohemian Rhapsody and stuff like that, I'm like, that was a little cheesy. That interaction didn't seem totally natural, but like all of these seemed very natural.
Yeah. Like it felt kind of like we were just like a fly on the wall of what's going on in this household and this person's life.
You're just watching it,
and you're watching, and it's not like you're watching like there's a ton that's going on with Sophia.
Yeah,
you're not following her.
You're following Cleo. Well, and do you think that the subtitles helped this story though? Like us getting all the dialogue. Whereas, like in other films, if you're watching without subtitles,
there's stuff in the background that you're not picking.
You're not really hearing what that person said, and you're not. But even still, this movie wasn't that heavy. This wasn't that heavy on script. It wasn't that heavy on text either.
Because again, you had so many moments that were just like, and even if it was script and dialogue-y stuff, it was like Mom, Paco's dog, like
Yeah.
it was like the Tonio and not Paco, Tonio and
Uh,
oh my gosh,
yeah, you're there. You're there,
starts
basically.
with P.
You're there.
Pepe.
That sounds right.
Pepe.
Yeah, I only have
Tonio and Pepe
Yeah.
and
All the kitties.
yeah. So I mean, it's more like you get all the background dialogue that's going on, but when you're following, like she doesn't talk
It's
that
pretty
much.
quiet. Yeah, she's a quiet woman,
Yeah.
and so it really just you're
Yeah.
seeing her actions and what she has to go through, and you're like, oh wow,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
a powerful story just through.
in and of
watching.
itself, like watching all of it, like it's not a movie that I would want to sit and watch every single day.
No, I probably won't watch it again, honestly, because it's pretty heavy
Maybe once
down the road. Yeah,
way down the road when I get on a kick summer and be like, I'm gonna go back and watch all the Academy Award winners of the last 20 years. Not anytime soon. But
I just watched.
I got good feelings about it. Like,
Yeah,
it's
So-
picking up a lot of the awards already. I know that Bohemian won
for actor maybe.
no for picture.
Oh, interesting.
For something. I don't remember if it was I think it was one of those where it had like the two comedies, like musical or comedy, and then drama. Like it won something like where everything's kind of
Pretty
split up.
niche
and stuff like that.
category. Yeah,
But just knowing the way that recently, it reminds me a lot of like how The Artist kind of was like, it was so technically well done and well acted with not a lot of like big name outside of John Goodman.
Yeah.
You didn't have a lot of big name actors in it, and yet it won.
yeah.
It reminds me a lot like that.
Yeah.
So that's my pick.
There you heard it, guys. Roma,
Roma.
our pick for the Academy Awards, the 91st.
Mm.
Gosh, I am tired, man. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, let's go to bed.
Ugh. Unfortunately, y'all, that is the end of our podcast. Remember, BitCast is a weekly podcast that covers most things video games and pop culture. Zach, thanks so much for being on the show,
Yeah, man.
sir.
Always appreciate
It's
it.
been great. Be sure to go to bitbloggers.com to see our recent postings. Will be up tomorrow, so Tuesday. Follow us on Instagram or on Facebook to see all of our fun pictures or news articles or anything else we're talking about during the week. Send any emails or topic suggestions to bitcast@bitbloggers.com. Until next time, this has been BitCast. Thanks for tuning in to talk about some stuff.
Yeah.
Outro.
Outro.